We'll welcome them when they get here, and then just like maybe 3 people from each committee talk about, what you're doing and what you hope to get done today, just so they have an idea of how we're working as a cohort and how our project is progressing, so they can see some of our interactions. Lynn is in the waiting room. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, I have to unmute. I'm here. Just carry on with it like I'm not here. I gotta fix my screen so you can at least see me. Okay, good. Now I'm a person.
Okay, so a couple people, 2 or 3 people from each committee. What does meaningful progress look like today?
For the video committee lately, we've been mostly working on deciding, figuring out the details of when our videos, like recordings, are going to be, who's going to be there, who's going to do the interview, and what time. And we're coordinating with the man who's videotaping for or recording for us, and his name is Wes. So we've been talking on and off with him about the details and which spaces work best with him. And then progress for today, we're going to go over, we have 2 kind of different video styles, and one focuses on civil discourse specifically. So we're going to kind of talk and outline a little bit in more detail what we want that specific video to look at, because we'll have to use different people's interviews together. So what styles we want for that. And then we'll also be looking over some of our final questions or final templates for questions to make sure that all of the people that we're interviewing, we have appropriate and helpful questions for them.
Thank you, Harper. Do you have any, or does anyone from the video group have details on who exactly is doing those interviews? I think it'd be nice to hear that.
And then also, I know that Wes was on the call on Sunday, and I didn't have a chance to hop into that breakout room. So I'm just curious. That was probably most of you guys' first time to meet with him, at least via Zoom. So I was just wondering how that went.
It went good. We just told him the times and he scheduled them, which was exciting. We have 2 planned, and they are both going to be within the next 2 weeks. One is next Friday, February 12th, with Eric Colin, and then I'm not sure what day the one with Lauren's grandma is, but it should be the following week after that.
Have you guys decided who will be interviewing them?
Does anyone else? Okay, I'll talk. Parrish might be interviewing Eric Colin. It depends on, he doesn't know if he's going out of town on Friday or Saturday or not. If he is not, or if he's going out of town, then I'll be interviewing Eric. And then Graham is interviewing Lauren's grandma. And then there will be 3 of us besides the interviewer at the meetings also. So we have a little spreadsheet of who's going. We can share that later.
That's awesome.
Yeah, great organization.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone from simulation committee?
Yeah, so for simulation, we have kind of recorded many very basic simulations in the past, just testing different topics ideas to see what works and what doesn't. And so today we'll probably review those recordings and determine what went well and what didn't, and maybe edit that. And then hopefully we'll be able to practice a different simulation with other topics as well. And yeah.
Are you all planning to practice some of them when Kristen is here?
We haven't quite decided if we'll do a new one or just look at the recordings, but possibly we will do a new one.
Okay. Cool.
Anyone from like the finishers group want to touch on your progress too?
And could you also say what the finishers group is? I'm
Yeah.
guessing. Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that too.
And Nina, we might ask the whole cohort for, I know you asked the simulation committee for feedback on that, but you could show what you've got going with the whole cohort too.
For sure. So I'll give a little background on the finishers. So we are essentially creating a manual for our project. So we decided that we needed something that would kind of tie everything that we've been doing for the last 3 years together. And this was a good way for us to kind of see how we are putting together the different parts of our project. So like you may have seen, like we have the simulation committee and then we have the video committee. And so simulation committee obviously is in charge of kind of creating a simulation for people to go through, an experience for people. Videos are there to teach people kind of on certain topics and implement. So like the simulation is focused on civil discussion. The videos supplement that with like more specific topics and include like civic discussion inside of that. And so we want to kind of merge the two, and to show how this all comes together, we're creating a manual. So right now I can share kind of what it looks like right now, but yeah, so can everyone see my screen? Okay. So this is what the layout is as of right now. It is going to change in the next couple of days, but we want to give a structure to this so that if we were to hand this off to somebody, they would be able to read the whole thing and understand, okay, this is how they want to run the simulation. This is how low heat is supposed to be reenacted. This is why we're choosing an SP. This is how we choose an SP. And so not only do we want to give them just like the instructions for how to do it, but we also want to give them the reason behind our project and why we are doing this and why it's important for them to do it in the way that we kind of created it. And so right now we have Maya is working on the POM. So she has taken the POM for the simulation committee, has taken the POM for the video committee, and is now coming up with an overall POM for the whole project, which we will include at the very beginning. And then I started with the simulation, so the pre-brief. Kristen kind of talked about this when she was presenting the different parts of the simulation or of a simulation. So we are going to talk to her more in depth about what kinds of things we need to include in each of these steps and get her feedback on that. But the pre-brief and then go into detail about that, the experience itself, go into detail, then debrief, and then at the end kind of talk about the videos and how they relate to our overall project. So if you have any questions.
Thank you, Nina. That was like amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Great job. Also, Kristen and Melody have joined now, so if everyone wants to say hi. For Lynn, Kristen, and Melody both work at the OU Simulation Center, so we're hoping to work with them today and make some more progress and show them our simulations and work out revisions and edits and such. We're super excited to have everyone here. So
yeah, we're excited to be here. Sorry I couldn't make last time, but we're here today. So
yeah. So before we break out into committees for work time, I think the goal of today is to let like committees work separately, maybe for a little bit, and then we'll come back together and maybe break out into like some combined combined breakout rooms. So like some people from both committees and I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Break out into smaller committees and run some scenarios like with both of us. So we'll have maybe 1 or 2 people from scenario or from simulation committee as the SP, and we'll have some people from the video committee like talking through them, just so we can get maybe a perspective of someone that doesn't know it as well as we do and see how it works. But we'll come back together first.
Are you gonna maybe Edie leave, if simulation group is gonna get organized first, do you wanna leave them in this room? That way Kristen and Melody can be with that group, and then Lynn can stay in this room and observe that group working?
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
or Lynn's got something to say, sorry.
I mean, whatever works, you know, or you can let me know and I can come back in, whatever. I'm fine either. I'm just sitting at my desk working, so either way it's fine.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll go out into breakout rooms, and if you want to stay and watch simulation talk for a little bit,
I
you
will.
can.
Yes,
Okay.
right.
And if you want to go to videos, just let me know or send a message in the
Okay.
chat and I can. The room should still be open. I don't know if you guys, if there's like you guys can just join at the bottom of the screen. Okay. I'm gonna make sure everyone is assigned to the right room. Just shoot me a message if you're not. Adam and Emily, do you guys want to stay here? Are you gonna go somewhere separate or go to the video? You're good here?
Yeah, I'll just hang out here if that's okay.
I'll go to video.
Okay.
Edie, may I stay in the bigger room?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I just say how cool this is? All of us doing this on Zoom, like professional time. It's going really good. And it's great having all of us together for some meaningful work. All right, I'll stop in.
Yes, and did we complete the introduction? I also want to make sure we completed the introduction between Lynn and Alana and Kristen and Melody. I know that Edie's mentioned that Kristen and Melody work for the simulation.
Alana, you're muted, so when you talk, we can't hear you.
I know, Kristen. It's all good. Thank you.
Oh, you know Kristen, is that what you said? Okay, okay, awesome. I just wanted to make sure we had got both ways. Cool. All right, I'm gonna mute myself now.
Okay, so what have y'all got for us today? I'm really excited.
Okay, so we have tested our low, medium, and high heat scenarios, and we've had them recorded and we've uploaded them to YouTube. One of the things that, you know, because like we're like immersed in this, so like our comments may not be the same as someone who has fresh perspective and is observing from the outside. And so one really important thing we wanted to have is like some comments on it from experts like Kristen and Melody. And so we invited them here today, and we're going to talk about probably our medium and high heat simulations and see what kind of feedback they have and, you know, edit accordingly. And then also, if we have time, we're going to perform one of the simulations for you.
Okay, so does someone want to kind of give the outline for the low heat scenario, and then we can kind of bounce off some of the notes and edits and revisions that we've observed?
All right, so I'll start off with the low heat scenario. I have all the notes pulled up. So our learning objectives for the low heat scenario are improving civil conversations, civil conversation skills like active listening, not interrupting, and being able to differentiate between emotional intensity and your own thoughts. And the style that we've decided to have our simulation is a group conversation. And so along with that, another goal of the simulation is to not dominate the conversation, like to not have one participant dominate the conversation. And the setting is basically like we're all in a group conversation and there's like an SP just like generally guiding the conversation. And it's supposed to be like a low heat topic. So like no one should be getting riled up about it. And it's supposed to provide a very safe environment for people to practice their skills. Does anyone have anything to add?
Yeah. So essentially, like, our purpose for the low heat, when we tested it out, we were talking about like favorite types of sandwiches. Like, we just wanted to keep it super simple because like the whole purpose was to, like, not speak over each other, listen to what someone's saying, and then reflect on what they said before you speak. So I think Derek kind of outlined this, but there's like 3 parts. So the low heat differs from the medium and high heat in that we don't tell them like the learning objectives beforehand. So part 1 is you discuss, and the SP just kind of takes the role of the participant, right? Like Derek was saying, they don't really guide that much. And then part 2 is the SP explains the learning objectives to the participants so they have a better understanding. And then part 3 is the simulations run again, and the SP plays more of a monitor role to make sure that like they're not talking over each other and they are following the learning objectives. So again, low heat, super simple, like just to practice those little things, because if you don't follow those little things, then you really can't, you won't be successful in talking about a more heated topic. But yeah, what were some other revisions and edits we made, you guys?
Does anyone have the notes pulled up? I remember one of the things that we made comments on for the low heat is that it was like getting off topic or off track. Like, so the point wasn't to like have conflict, but with the broad topic that we chose of sandwiches, one point was like it was really easy to avoid like a scenario where like one might have to, actively focus on like not interrupting or like actively listening, because they could just like divert it to another subject, and so they would avoid it completely and not end up practicing that skill. So that's just one thing that we talked about. Anyone else have anything to add?
Just on that, like an example was like we were talking about sandwiches, and I can't remember the exact scenario, but it was like I was like, oh yeah, I like turkey and mayo sandwiches, and Lane said, oh, I hate that so much, I hate turkey and mayo. And then Edie was like, I like grilled cheese, and then everybody started talking about grilled cheese. So like the conflict between me and Lane never had a chance to like build to anything. And not that we were wanting me and Lane to like get in a whole argument about it, but we were wanting to like, have some discussion. Oh really? And why do you hate like the turkey and mayo sandwiches? Or do you really hate them? Like, I don't know. We never had any kind of side conversation because we just jumped to grilled cheese. So it's so funny talking about this in sandwich terms, but so that's just kind of like an example of that.
Yeah, I think our biggest like obstacle is trying to find the right topic for the low heat, because we want it to be serious enough that you're having a meaningful conversation, but not too like controversial that people are going to get offended, but also not too specific that there's not much to talk about, and if you don't know much about the topic then you can't add anything, but not too broad that the conversation goes all over the place and you can't really have a successful conversation. Which for the medium and high heat, the conversation topics are going to be more targeted around a video that the video committee is working on right now. But for the low heat, that's kind of our biggest struggle right now.
Yeah, so and enough about kind of like what we have to say. Is there anything like that Kristen or you, Melody, have to say, or like anything that you would like us to touch up on, or like maybe elaborate more on?
So I want to make sure I'm understanding the low heat correctly. So the low heat, the role of the SP in that scenario is to start the conversation. Okay, and they'll be prescribed a topic or a subject. And then they may have to do some redirecting back on topic, but not as much as they will likely have to do in the medium and high heat. Is that correct? Cool. Okay.
I think the other thing that we said was that they would call out somebody if they weren't talking at all during it, but that's only if somebody wasn't talking enough.
Okay, in the medium or high heat, or in the low heat?
The low heat.
The low heat, okay. what I see, and Melody, jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of see you using the SP as both an SP and a mediator. So you'll lose some fidelity in the SP portrayal if they also have to pay attention to what, you know, to who's not speaking. So they'll have to break that, you know, that train of thought or that character that they've built for themselves in order to be like, hey, you know, Tom, I haven't heard anything from you. What do you think? And then try to get right back into that character to continue the conversation. So that's a little muddy. That's not, we don't have SPs play dual roles just because it does muddy the waters in what their role in that simulation is. When they're portraying a character, we want them to stay in that character the entire time they're in the room with the participants. So they get the highest fidelity, most immersive experience possible.
Kristen, I would add that many of your SPs aren't trained in that sort of monitoring. They're trained to be actors.
Correct. They are trained to portray cases, right? So, Alana, you're absolutely right. There would, you know, if you chose to have a second SP take on that role of mediator, that would require training in that role. That you all would have to, we would work together to provide, but that's not something we have on hand currently.
That makes a lot of sense. So would the alternative just be accepting that some people would be more engaged than others and just take that as it is?
And that's a great thing to talk about during a debrief.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
you could still
oh, Melody, go ahead.
You could still provide like if then statements that also help keep the conversation on track. Like there's no reason that the SP could be like, well, wait a minute. We were talking about turkey sandwiches. Why are you talking about grilled cheese sandwiches? You know? So that's always possible too. And they can still stay in their role while doing that. It's just like to be really careful about the boundary between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought I had something else to say, but now I forgot it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Does that make sense? I mean, oh, I know what I was going to say. Also, in the moment, if you know, I'm an extrovert, so I have no problem telling you how I feel or what I think, right? But my mom's an introvert, and I have asked her point blank, you know, hey, mom, if you're in a group setting having a conversation, in order to get your feedback, do you like being called on? And she said no. So you run the risk of actually alienating somebody who's choosing not to participate because of a personality trait that isn't modifiable. So you don't want to make people feel uncomfortable in the moment either.
Thank you for bringing that up.
About bringing these things up in the debrief. Like, in fact, Nina, it makes me think that in our table of contents for the manual, that after each, like the section on low heat, there's a debrief section for that on the section.
I just added that actually.
Yeah.
I just added that, yeah.
Because Kristen and Melody, wouldn't you say, I mean, truly the growth comes from debriefing the exercise, not the exercise in and of itself.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. That's where all of that kind of painful, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes all of that reflection happens about, you know, what just transpired, you know, what emotions may have come to the surface, what things did you maybe want to say, but you couldn't figure out how to say them, what things did you say and they didn't come out right. That's really the meaty part. I mean, we really do, like, simulations is what we do, so we can have a really enriching conversation later.
I love the way you said that.
Oh, thanks.
So would you guys like to hear about the medium or high heat scenarios?
Love to.
Which one are you guys more excited to talk about, guys? The high heat or the medium?
I personally think the medium, because that's what we showed to the video committee and that's the one that they really liked. Michael is nodding her head. But I'm totally cool to explain either one.
I would also encourage you guys to pull up the simulation master sheet, because that kind of has all the points that and notes from the medium heat scenario. We ran that scenario at the last monthly meeting, and we did it for the whole cohort. So they were able to see, and we were able to hear feedback, or I guess not the whole cohort, but we had some people from the video committee watch, and they had a lot more feedback, which was really cool for us to hear, and give them clarity on some things that we didn't realize needed clarity, which was super helpful. And the master sheets on Basecamp for you guys. It's in your message boards, or yeah, it's on the message board.
All right, so why don't we just get started like going in order? So since we just did low heat, we'll do medium heat now. I'll start off with like a brief description of how the medium heat scenario is styled. So it's going to be, or this is subject to change, but for now we were thinking of having 2 SPs and 3 participants. And so there's a reason why we chose 3, basically that way. Lane can probably explain that later if there's any questions about it. But the whole general premise of the medium heat scenario is that there will be some conflict, like the SP will be acting in like some sort of conflicting role with whatever opinion that the participant has. And we'll pre-brief the participant to like have skills, or like to show them skills of like de-escalating conversations and like bringing down the heat, making sure that their emotions are separated from their thoughts. And so the SP in the middle of the simulation will start to get a little irritated, possibly angry, and then it will be the job of the participants to de-escalate the conversation and bring it back down to a civil level.
That sounds really good. We've done things not the same, but kind of similar to that within both our social and medical simulations. So we have SPs that are well acquainted with, it's again what Melody was saying earlier, the if then. If the learner is really trying to assuage, your fears or your discomfort, then you will act in this way. If, however, they continue to provoke you, you will get, then you'll be more madder. Is that right? Oh, do you ever do that? And sometimes your words just like you forget super simple things. I do that all the time. Oh, anyway, they'll get angrier and less, more resistant to the conversation kind of thing. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I like the way you're ramping up the training. And you said you would have 3 participants. Curious. Can Lane explain?
Yes, I can. I chose 3 because I wanted it to be kind of like a real life thing. So the conversation shows up and not everyone is going to side with each other. So for the example, the participants may not agree with each other, or the SPs may not even agree with each other. So if we have an outnumbering of the SPs with the participants, this will eliminate one participant being like ganged up on by the other people, which will eliminate stress. But still, when they switch sides, even if the SPs are on opposing perspectives, they're still going to get angry. And it's the job of participant, no matter which side they're on, to calm them down. Kind of like I'm trying to get the most real life scenario possible.
Okay. Thank you for that.
And I was just going to explain like a little bit further about the scenario that we ended up going with when we ran our medium heat.
Sure.
So I actually have the sheet pulled up over here, but what we did was we did a Supreme Court case. There was this religious community in Oregon, and they used LSD for their religious practices, and that court case ended up going all the way to the Supreme Court because the debate was, well, freedom of religion, so they should be able to use this in their religious experiences, but also it's LSD, which is an illegal substance. And so that was just a random topic that we came up with, but we kind of liked the case format of it because it gives you something to talk about. Like if you said, hey, what did you think about this case? But the thing was that I didn't know anything about it, but Lane and Miller were our SPs and me and Derek were our participants. And Lane knew about the case, but I didn't, but he like explained it before. And so then I could come up with an opinion. And I was like, I don't even remember, Derek, which stance we took, but I'm pretty sure we went, oh yeah, well, I mean, it's their freedom of religion or whatever. But it ended up being odd because we like divided. And I don't know, the scenario ended up working out really well, even though the participants didn't have a lot of information on it. We were still able to like have a meaningful discussion and it worked out pretty well.
That's great. So it seems like part of the plan then would be for the SP to kind of initiate the conversation and explain kind of the background so everybody's operating from the same page.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Lane just kind of said, oh, there's this case up in Oregon where this religious community is using LSD in their religious practices, and the case has made it all the way up to the Supreme Court. What do you think about it? And then we all started talking from there. And that gave me the chance as the participant to say, oh, well, actually, I think it's fine because it's within their freedom of religion. And then Lane knew that that was my opinion. So he took the opposite opinion to like oppose me. So by him introducing it and asking my opinion, it makes it clearer for the SP what part they're playing.
Yeah. And ideally, the topic being discussed will be something from the video committee, whatever video we feel is strongest for this heat. But yeah, just like a brief overview about what it will be like. And we make the point to the video committee when we were going over the heat scenarios and, you know, how we used these random topics, but that they're pretty flexible for different topics. So, you know, we can revise it as according. But what were some of the, yeah, Emily, go ahead, sorry.
I had a question for you guys. I wonder if, and just for feedback in general, I wonder if like for each heat, low, medium, and high, for the purposes of this like manual or kind of a product or something that we'd hand off, I wonder if we identify like 5 topics for each heat that could be utilized, and we summarize those, knowing that if Kristen and Melody, the Sim Center, were to take on this, that you could build on that. You could expand from 5 to maybe 15 topics that have been identified as medium or high heat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we actually talked about that at one point too, having like maybe 3 different topics, and you know, maybe it's the participants choose whatever they're most comfortable with, or each one is run like, you know, you do topic 1 first time, topic 2 the second time it's ran. But we've talked about that, so it's definitely, yeah, definitely worth.
Cool.
Okay, Melody, I'm thinking about the SP training side. Are you also?
Yes. Yeah. My next question was going to be, can you guys tell me a little bit more about why you chose to make it so that the SP would have to choose a side versus the learner or participant choosing a side based on what the SP says? Like, was there a moment when you guys were trying to decide between those two?
Like making the participant be against it, even if they really aren't.
Right, like, because so you were explaining this scenario, and it sounds like to me, and let me know if I'm wrong. It sounds like the SP would present the topic, and then the learner's given an opportunity to respond and talk about what they think first, and then the SP goes down that path, right? They have to choose the opposite. And so I'm wondering, like, what the thinking behind that was versus having the SP say, man, did you hear about this Supreme Court case? I think that's just crazy and wrong. You know, like they can't do that or whatever. And then the student could, or the learner participant could respond. What do you guys think about that?
Oh.
No, you go ahead, Lane.
Oh, okay. So for the medium heat, we allow for SPs to take any side. I took the side against Julian because that was what I genuinely believed. But if the way it's set up with more participants than SPs, it allows for them to like switch sides and like get on the side that they want to argue and still have a more likely shot of arguing against more people. And for the high heat, it's kind of necessary for the SP to take the side opposing, but we can get to that later.
Okay, I understand. That totally answers my question.
Yeah, I was gonna say that we want there to be a little bit of conflict as well. So if the SP said, man, this court case is crazy, that's so wrong, and then I said, yeah, it is wrong, and then we just talked about how wrong it was, there'd be no conflict, there'd be no practicing of skills, because we'd just be bashing a topic that we both disagreed with. Whereas if I state my opinion and then the SP from there can like navigate better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it will be really important if that's your intention to provide a few set points that the SP can talk about in response to the learner or participant's argument, because we all are humans and have our opinions, and maybe under pressure we say things that might not be contributing to the greater goal of this exercise. So it would be really good if you're thinking about SP training in the future with this, to provide like 3 or 4 different points that they can start off with to form an argument with the learner.
Yeah.
So we'll have to be learning both sides. So one of our priorities is going to be getting enough information for to make it as easy as possible for the SP to play both roles if they need to.
Yeah. What were some of the other notes that we took from the medium heat about like kind of time limits, when the SP should start maybe ending the conversation, if, you know, like what if this happens? I know we talked a lot about that.
On the simulation master sheet, next to medium heat, we had laid out 5 to 10 minutes for the total discussion. But when we actually tested it out, it actually ended up fitting right in with that timeline. But if it's looking like the conversation isn't going to end, we kind of want the SP to like, I don't know, nudge it in that. So I don't know, I guess we're using them as mediators again, which is
so yeah, that was one of our notes and concerns. So like the goal of the participant is to try to diffuse the tension a little bit, right? But we can't have the conversation go on forever. So, you know, a question was like, should the SP know that at a certain time point, like if the participant's not diffusing the tension, then does the SP like stop the conversation and then reflect back on the learning objectives? Which, you know, like if you stop the conversation, you can't really like get back into it, because then it's like, what's the point? But, or does it like, do you just continue the conversation until 10 minutes? And if the participant didn't diffuse attention, then you talk about that in the debrief. Do you just let that be what happens? Because I mean, I feel like if you're talking about it at the end, you're still learning something. But is it okay if that happens? Like, should there be a time limit that we just kind of like cut it off?
I would say yes. And you know, that can be whatever you all feel is the appropriate amount of time to engage in this kind of conversation and allow the participant to practice those skills. But yes, if, you know, if everything goes well with vaccinations and COVID kind of calming down, and if we're back in the center doing this kind of thing, we have automated announcements built into our ceiling. So we could give like a 2-minute warning and then your time has ended, okay, and you just stop where you stop. And then that all becomes part of the debrief session.
Okay.
So, you know, what prevented you from moving on? You know, it seemed like you got stuck on this, you know, tell me more about that kind of thing.
And like that should be in the debrief at the end with like the entire group, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You can also do SP feedback immediately after.
Okay.
But we've trained our SPs, they only will provide feedback on how they felt in the moment. Did they
Okay.
feel respected? Did they feel listened to? Those kinds of things.
Okay. I guess that's something to think about if we want SP feedback.
Yeah, it's totally up to you.
Would
oh, sorry. Sometimes, you know, if you're going to do like a virtual simulation, whenever we do those, typically what we'll do is have everybody in breakout rooms, and we just use the breakout room announcements to keep time. So if they've got 2 minutes left, you just send a breakout room announcement and they see it flash across the top of their screen. It doesn't stay there forever. It's not as intrusive as like an overhead announcement that you can't avoid like really responding to it or knowing that it happened, but it is there as an option so that people know how time is progressing.
And like we said at the beginning, we have our scenarios recorded, and we, you know, obviously it's part of a whole meeting recording, but we have the timestamps for like when the scenario like simulation happened. Would you guys be interested in like having those timestamps?
I would love to be able to see them. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We will get
Because I
those
think
too.
from there we can give it kind of a critical eye and kind of pick out things that are working and things that may not be working as well. And then give you our feedback so you can refine a little bit if needed.
Okay, are you gonna tell them about the high heat one? Because I think that's the one I heard between Julian and Lane, and it was really interesting. I felt uncomfortable. That's my feedback.
Yeah, and also the time that you heard it, I'm pretty sure was the second time we ran it. So it sounded like a little bit more rehearsed because they had talked about it before, but the first time was really good. It was intense.
I can say some things about it.
Go for it.
As one of the arguers, as the SP of this simulation, yeah, the goal, there's a Monty Python clip where I got the inspiration to do this. And in this clip, there's one guy who's like paying to have an argument. And then there's this other guy who just disagrees with everything he says. Like literally, he could say anything, and the person would just say the exact opposite. And so I was like, hey, let's put that in a scenario. And so I was the SP, and at this point, I said it's kind of essential that the SP disagrees with everything that the participant says. And yeah, our learning objectives are to basically walk away, realize that a conversation is hopeless and that you will not be able to calm this person down. And we decided to be best performed theater style, where it's just kind of a one-on-one and everyone else is watching, because it will allow for like maximum intensity and maximum flair, which is the challenge of this scenario. But no, the SP's job is to disagree with everything the participant says on a very specific, kind of pretty controversial topic. Julian and I, we did abortion, so that's why it was so intense. That's why it was very interesting for the spectators. It was not fun to argue against, let me tell you. I'm just kidding, actually. It was very fun for me.
I think one of the main things that's important of the high heat one is that, like, why we call it high heat, it's obviously going to be the hardest. But we want you to use all the skills that you've built up through the simulation in this scenario. And yeah, the goal is just, again, to like walk away, realize like that you're having this conversation. And I think like the way I ended it, as I said, like I see that you have your points and like I have mine, but we're never going to agree. And if you don't want to continue this conversation respectfully, then I'm going to have to back out. And like that's the main goal that we want to get to, is like because like a lot of what we're seeing like in political conversations is it can get like demonizing or whatever. Like there was a point where Lane was like, you're a bad person for having that belief or whatever. Like he said something like rude. Not Lane. Lane is a nice person, but like in the act he said something not kind, and I was like, now you're like coming for me and my personality, and so I know that it's time for me to leave this conversation. And I think that's the goal that we want people to have, is instead of that could have really escalated and I could have like said, well, you're a bad person for saying that I'm a bad person, or like something like that. We want them to like realize there's that, like there's an edge of conflict right there, and we want them to be able to step away from the edge and like come back, because I think that would be so beneficial in political conversations right now. I mean, like everybody in here has had a conversation probably with another person about politics and it's gotten very heated, and we want you to be able to come out of that and not hurt the other person, not attack them, but also realize that like your opinion is important and it's that you know when to draw the line.
I think that's great. That sounds like holidays with my dad. We talk politics sometimes, and we always end the conversation with, I love you, but I disagree. So we, it's just like when you can, and with this, it's great because you're still wanting your participant to practice all those skills so they understand you can be doing everything right. But sometimes in life, you're going to deal with people who are just challenging. And though, you are really trying, you won't be able to get through to everybody, and that's okay. Protect your mental health and step away. I think that's really great.
Yeah. And our goal, different from the low heat, like we talked about, for the medium and high heat, our plan is to like go over the learning objectives beforehand so that I can be actively using them. Is that like usually how it's done?
Yeah.
Okay.
The pre-brief would be, okay, you've seen these videos and we've taught you these skills. This is a chance for you to put those skills into practice, and then you go from there. So yeah, you usually clue them in to what's going on. But I am a big fan of kind of throwing people in and just seeing if they can pull on those skills that they've learned themselves, right? So I love the idea of a high heat being that scenario.
Yeah,
it's like, kind of like their final exam.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a comp.
Yeah, it's like, can you take these skills that we've given you, and use them? So that's kind of why we had thought about putting the learning objectives after for that one.
Yeah,
because we want to test them and say, and if they don't get it and they get super angry and upset, then like at the end we can say, I mean, we're not going to say like you failed the test, obviously, but we're going to, in a kind way, be like, so these were the learning objectives and like, where can we improve on these skills and stuff like that. But we want to give them that opportunity to do it on their own without our like encouragement.
Yeah. Also, just another little point that we put up like under what the SP will do in the conversation. So like under the SP traits, it's like not respectful to the participant, which is kind of like Lane did that when like he personally attacked Julian, talks over them, disregards their statements, rude remarks. And then we also had the SP makes like illogical remarks. So like things that are just factually incorrect that would just like get, edge the participant on a little bit more to test them.
That's great. Something else you may want to consider when thinking about the SP's role is the Melody. What does Kara call them? The paraverbals. So like how you're holding your face, like what how you're holding your body. Are you, when they're really angry, are they moving forward into the learner's personal space? If they're really disengaged, are they really like stepping back and getting physically distanced from you? So all of that stuff is really important to write in to your SP description as well.
I was just
I've
going to say.
actually thought about.
Oh, you can go, Lane.
Oh, it's okay. I went first last time. You can go.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I think it's been hard for us on the physical aspect of this because we are practicing this all over Zoom. Lane and I couldn't be in the same room having this discussion. So I think that's kind of where we look to like your expertise a little bit too. I think we kind of know how we want it to be, but we don't really get to test it out in person just because because
Sure.
the world is the way the world is today, and
Yeah.
no fault to anybody, but like, so I think it's like a little hard to gauge that, because I don't know, maybe it would be super intimidating if Blaine had gotten in my face and that may have been a little too much, but also I don't know, maybe it would have pushed me a little bit more. I don't know, because we can't test it out. So
Right,
I guess
right.
that's kind of where we're leaning to you all
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
opinions.
Yeah, we definitely have a few tips and tricks that we can insert. Lane.
Okay, so I originally envisioned this like at a desk, and hear me out, like at a table where there are like two people sitting across.
Oh no, Lane, you cut out. This happens sometimes. His audio will cut out.
Well, this is Zoom. I mean, we deal with this day in, day out. No worries.
We'll give you a second, Lane.
How about now?
Yep.
Okay, but no, a desk across from each other. When the SP gets really angry, they bang the table really loud, and then like kind of alternate from getting in the face and then just turning around and walking away and getting like just looking upset. Like they gotta be blood red. Like you gotta see tea gas coming out of their ears, steam coming out of their ears.
Yeah, we have people that can do that. We have people that really enjoy doing that, which take that as, you know, as you will.
I am one of those people. I am one of those
Great.
people. I do love doing.
Lane enjoyed being the SP for that one a little too much. He was super excited. He was like, I'll do it. Don't worry. I can get mad. That's fine.
Just curious, anybody else find themselves enjoying that role besides Emily? Okay, I'm kidding. No, of course I'm kidding. No, but anybody else, seriously, do you enjoy that? Because there's a job for you doing this.
Yep, we hire when you're 18 and have some spare time. So think about that, Lane.
I will certainly consider that, yes.
I'm not the type of person to like do that as myself, so I don't really think I could act that out very well.
Oh, that would be stressful. I asked to be the participant in this one. I was like, I don't think I can yell at someone. I don't want to yell at any of you. You all seem nice.
Y'all ever do that thing
One.
where like you have a conversation with somebody and it doesn't go the way you want it to, and then you go home and you're like, man, I wanted to say I'm good at that. I can get real tough with those one-on-one conversations with myself.
You redo the entire conversation in your head before you fall asleep.
Yes. And this time they get it.
I did that the other day with the conversation I had with Lane, because there was a second one. When we did it a second time, I literally after the call was like, I should have brought that up. I should have said that. And I know it's a fake conversation, but I was like replaying it in my mind, and I was like, when he said that I was a bad person, I could have said this, and this, but he didn't. I forgot.
Yeah.
Same. I wanted to bring up the Bible so bad. You have no idea.
I know you all are kind of joking, but you're joking in a way that we all relate. I wonder if there is an element of addressing that could be built into the simulation, because it's it's detrimental to our mental health when we go home and stew over things. So anyway, I'm just planting the seed. I don't know what the answer is, but is there a way in the debrief of the high heat to reflect on that and ask and maybe even provide some skills for how to de-escalate yourself post high heat conversations?
Pass me the conch. Pass me the conch.
I love that.
I think building on that, really, it would be engaging, because think about how interesting it is that when Emily pointed it out, right? We all have that experience. We all can in our minds know that feeling of like, oh, I should have said this or whatever. I think if you build that into the introduction, you'll have them. If they're like, why am I going to this simulation about, if you just go into it and just before you even get into your real simulations, do a little something that gives them that experience of like, ever have that feeling where you didn't know what to say and later it came to you and that there could have been a better way to resolve the situation? It's called an amygdala hijack. I don't know if have you heard that term? Right? And we all experience it where I won't go into it, but if you research what that is, I think that would be a great angle to ground the conversation and so that it's practical to all of us. I've certainly been in situations where someone triggered my nerves, my feelings. It happens in our nervous system. It is the amygdala being part of the emotion center of the brain that is actually shaped like an almond, like that, and it's our emotional response center. And it responds to social threat in the same way it responds to physical threat. It causes our body to release adrenaline and to constrict our blood vessels in order to pump faster oxygen-rich blood to our muscles so that we could do fight or flight or freeze or appease. All right.
Hey,
Yeah, and
let's ask the video group. What would be amazing is if the video group could interview someone in the field that understands like the limbic system and could explain that. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. And as we've been like kind of talking about each scenario, I've been writing down some of the questions that people have said, like who was engaged, who wasn't, some stuff for the debrief. Also, should there be a debrief after each scenario, or should it just be one final one at the end, or both?
I mean, I think the large group debriefs are more powerful because you get many more experiences to talk about. And honestly, even if you only have to have like one or two brave volunteers in the room to go first. And once those conversations get started, and they are very all like relatable topics and feelings and emotions that have been experienced, then even your the shyer people will participate more. I mean, you still won't get 100% participation. That's okay. People are absorbing it, right? We take in information in different ways, and we have to honor that in each other. But yeah, it's Melody. Do you think the large group?
Yes, I would think so, because they're different experiences, but they fit into the same piece. They go together.
Yeah.
Do you think there should be SP feedback after each one? Not even like a debrief discussion, but like, I don't know, like SP feedback, just kind of just like giving an overall like, oh, this is what I saw, this is what I heard.
Ultimately, that's up to you all. If you decide to incorporate SP feedback, Melody and I would recommend that you have very prescriptive questions that the SPs are meant to answer. So and those should be based on your learning objectives, right? So we're tying this whole package together. So, I mean, sometimes, it's most of the time SP feedback is well received. Sometimes it isn't. I mean, often it's uncomfortable, but people are generally able to kind of, take a step back and take off the defensive hat and just kind of listen and engage with that. But yeah, it's 100% up to you whether or not you want to, and we can coach you along the way if you do decide to include it.
Yeah, I think
if
anything, it'd be most beneficial for the low heat, just because those are the basic ones about like reflecting on what you said before, or what they said before you speak, like not speaking over each other. And so like if they give you feedback on that, then you'd probably be more successful in the later heats, because medium's just about diffusing the tension, which SP feedback potentially could be beneficial, but then the last one's just about walking away. I mean, really, so that's kind of self-explanatory. But then the final large group debrief, you can talk about like the feelings and emotions that came up with that.
Yeah, also just thinking about RSPs, when they become these characters, I mean, they will get mad as they're meant to, as this person with this belief would how they would feel. And then to ask them to immediately turn around and like break from that and have a very civil directed conversation would be difficult. Once those hormones are flowing, it's really hard to turn them off and then turn around and turn them back on. So you probably would just want to keep them primed to play that role. And then large group at the end.
Also, is there any like specific guide or things that need or should be like included in the debrief?
So a lot of times, so some people do really organic debriefs that just start with, can somebody share with me how you think that went today? Have y'all ever done the poverty simulation? That simulation has a specific line of questions that the facilitator follows to guide that conversation. So for something like this, I would recommend a very prescriptive guide of things that you would like the group to discuss.
That's helpful. So
Cool.
thank you.
Yeah, and we're happy to help you think of questions too, or if you want to like send us a draft of some, we can take a look and try to, add and edit.
Yeah, and we will also I'll be sure to email both of you guys the timestamps for the scenarios, and all the like meeting recordings are on YouTube, so I'll send you the link to that YouTube page, and it'll say what video to watch. And then we have the timestamp for like the scenario, and then the timestamp for like the discussion after, so you don't have to watch that because we kind of just discussed it, but if you want to, you can.
Yep. Very cool.
Does anyone else have any or comments, concerns? Because I know we only have them from 2 to 3. So
I know it's a different kind of simulation, but I may have their debrief questions somewhere because I have all their facilitator stuff. So I may be able to share it as an example sometime. Let me look at that and I'll report back. I feel like I might have something.
Yeah.
That would be really awesome, just to like get a visual on like what I know that the content won't compare necessarily, but that I personally I think that would be nice to see.
Yeah, I would just keep in mind too, like if I find it and I can share it, I would keep in mind that it's a much larger group they're debriefing with typically for the poverty simulation, like minimum 55, but typically closer to like 75 people. So just keep that in mind as well if you get a hold of those.
There's a structure that I've learned that it's very loose, but then you could tighten it up however you want. But it's what, so what, now what. So like, what happened? What did you see? Like that way, everybody can agree on what the experience was and what let's review what we experienced. And then so what is, why does it matter? So what is like, what is our focus? If these questions sound familiar, what is our focus? So what is, okay, what is our focus? So what is, why does it matter? And now what do we want to do about it? Where do we go with this? Or what is the learning to be done or action to be taken?
yeah, I like that. It's such a it's a basic but not obvious. Yeah, Bib no.
Well, that's great. Well, y'all, I'm so sorry. I have to jump off and hop on
You're
another
good.
meeting, as they say now. It was so much fun to be here again, and just keep, Edie and Derek, just keep letting us know when your meetings are, and we'll keep trying to attend as we can. And feel free to email, keep texting me. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Of course. You'll have a great weekend.
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Bye, Kristen.
So I'm gonna bring everyone back, if that's okay.
Yeah. Lynn and Lana, do you have any feedback? I'll just say, I was like, okay, I was pretty impressed with how professional y'all were.
I'm just sitting here listening and learning as everyone's talking. I'm enjoying it immensely. I have no questions. Alana?
I don't have any questions. I'm just pleased to see that you're working really well with Kristen. She's one of my favorites. And she was amazing in working with Cohort 11 on Culture Bridge. I just think really understanding the role of the standardized patient, the SP, and what they're expected to do. They come in and act. They give minimal feedback. The real value is in the debrief. And it's one of the things you can work with Kristen to see if you can't have that videoed and then send that link out. We used to do it on DVDs, but now I think she can probably send some link out. We would do this in an exchange in Israel, and the students who participated would have 11 hours on the flight home to watch their video over and over and over and see what they had done right or wrong as they were training in social work. So these things have so many opportunities for training. And I love simulation. I think it's the greatest.
Yeah, I don't know if I can speak for everyone, but I've really been enjoying this process, and just talking about it gets me excited. So it was really awesome to meet with them again and have you guys there, because it's helpful to hear feedback from different people who are seeing it for the first time and make it, because then we can make it better. So, so our next thing on the agenda is our 10-minute break, just so everyone can get up, stretch, move around, recenter. Um, and then we'll come back and we can hear from video group and simulation a little bit more. And then we might do a little bit more collaborative breakout rooms, if that's okay. Adam?
Yeah.
I'm going to say goodbye here. It's been great.
Okay.
And I'm really pleased. I mean, you all feel that even though you're separate, you're together. And that's kind of what I wanted to see, how the whole impact of social distancing was working with YPI, and listening to you guys today gives me hope. So have a great weekend. Stay well, stay safe, and thanks. And take care, everyone. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
I have a question. I thought I heard someone from the, I don't know if it was the finisher committee or if it was Kristen or one of them, ask about like potential topics for each heat. Or was it Emily? I think it was Emily. Said like brainstorm 5 for each heat.
Yeah, just the idea of like maybe building in like, here are 5 conversation topics for each heat.
Oh, well, I have 5 for medium heat.
I was gonna say we could work on
in the base camp.
We could work on those maybe today, or just possibly, and like talk about them as a cohort.
Yeah, and that could be great to collaborate with video though, to see how like maybe some of the videos that they're already developing could be a source of a topic for one of those love heats.
Yeah, because even, like if go ahead, Lane.
Can you all hear me? But I said, because videos listed, they're videos out to us, the ones they have. I've incorporated the ones we've already talked about, and then I've incorporated some for the medium heat based on videos they gave us. So.
Okay, cool. Let's take a break because my brain's fried.
Okay, see y'all in 10. Time to come back. Just like my singing.
I just realized I forgot to pause the recording. Oh well.
You know, it's really funny as I was dancing on break the whole time and thinking you guys were all on break and missing it, but now it's on the recording, I guess. How was
Your
that?
video is off, so.
Not real, not the whole time, maybe. I'm kidding. I'm totally lying. How's everybody doing? How's everybody feeling about today's progress so far? Yeah, some thumbs up. Really good. I hate to say it, it's starting to look like a project to me. No, I'm kidding. I don't hate to say it. I love saying it. Do you guys feel that way though? Do you know what I'm saying? Is that bad to say? Was that rude? Do you get what I'm saying?
No, it's exciting. Okay, so Peyton typed in the chat right before break about a possible topic about like teens and social media and teens on phones, which is like can be controversial, but like not gonna make people angry. So I guess survey the group. Do you guys wanna go into breakout rooms kind of like with, you know, mixed committees just to talk about like potential topics or like topics that could branch off of maybe like some main videos? Emily, is that kind of what you were outlining before break?
Oh, yeah, just as one of the things I think y'all ought to talk about. But before we break out, though, I was wondering, I wanted to hear, just because I never popped over to the video committee, like how your time went. And then also I wish everyone could have seen the dialogue with Kristen, because that was really, it was really helpful for me too in thinking about the simulation as like a start to finish experience that someone might walk through. And so anyway, I just thought maybe you guys could, I don't know how to capture that for like the video group to see, and then for us to capture what the video group talked about to see. I know Adam's waving at me. So anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. I just like, I don't know how, Adam, you just talk.
Yeah, on that point, I think that's a wonderful point. Well, I know if somebody could just trim the video part, because we have that on video at least, the part with Kristen and the simulation group talking through that, right? Is that what you mean, Emily?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we literally did capture it. We could also, instead of even trimming the video, just say like, here's where the conversation.
Timestamp it, right?
Yeah, and just what.
Yeah, would any of you watch it who weren't there, do you think though? I mean, I don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it, but would you watch it, at least some of you, to get a sense? Or
It brought a lot of clarity to me, like having not always been in all of the simulation conversations. Like they talked about, here's what we're working on for low heat, medium heat, and high heat. And for each of those got feedback from Kristen and Melody of like, of how to make it work, basically. So it felt like oh wow, there's the simulation. You just kind of out like a draft of it. That's cool.
Yeah, Michael?
Coming from being in only videos and like being able to see like and hear them talk was really, really cool, because like
louder.
I, didn't really have like an idea, like a full grasp of it, but now that I do, it's like, whoa, like I learned a lot just like sitting and listening, even though I didn't have a lot to put in because I didn't really know, what was going on. But like, I mean, I knew it was going on, but it was just really cool, like seeing them talk, and it was like super professional, and like, I don't know, it was super, super cool. So.
So one of the things would be, at least for the next step, would be for anybody that's in the sim group to talk with video group people about those, like what you said, what could be topics for each of the heats that would correlate with with videos? Are there things like, I know in the simulation discussion we talked about, like, oh, it'd be cool if we had a video about this, or, you know, and is there a way to pitch that to a video group to see, hey, do you guys, you know, what do you think about this idea? Could you talk to somebody who might be an expert in this field? That's all.
Yeah. Does 4 rooms sound good? That's about 6 people per group. Or do we want to do 3? That's like 8.
I think 4 is good. I don't know.
Okay, I will open them and, you know, just free dialogue, take some notes, and we'll come back and share. I'm not sure what time yet, but I'll broadcast a message. So. Sorry, there you go. I guess Adam and Emily are assigned to rooms.
Okay, but tell me, what are we doing in the rooms again? I'm sorry.
Talking about like topics from videos, like that you could potentially talk about. Just kind of like free dialogue, because videos have talked about it, but like, or I mean, simulation has talked about it, but I'm curious to hear some of their ideas, maybe.
Okay.
First, yeah. Are you guys gonna go to the room or no?
I can.
I realized I assigned you guys to rooms, so I was gonna go to the one of the 2 that y'all were assigned to, just because then it would only have like, there's only 5 people in that room.
What were you saying? You were muted.
Oh, okay. I was gonna go.
No, she was talking to me. I was gonna sit it out, honestly,
Okay.
like let the groups decide. So, but I don't want to mess you up.
No, I mean, either's fine.
All right, cool. Edie, we'll stay here and you go wherever you want to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. So, cohort 12 in the house. Rocking it, making a project, making it happen. Kindly controversial. That's what I thought would be a good name of your project if you were looking for a different flavor. Kindly controversial. Welcome to Kindly Controversial. I'm your host.
We can't do that. We paid for a logo. We're sticking with Commonwealth.
We're doing that. We paid for a
That thing
logo.
cost us $300.
That's right.
Hey, actually, speaking of, who paid for that?
Did we stiff them?
Why? Oh wait, YPI, right?
I don't know. I don't recall, and it could be because it was a while ago, but I don't recall like submitting that for reimbursement.
But I might have, if somebody sent me, I might have sent it directly on and had it paid directly. So,
oh, okay.
Who did you do it through? Who did you do the logo through?
We did. It was 99 Designs.
And then okay, so it must be on one of our credit cards.
I'll get that receipt to you guys so that
that
we
would
can
be
get that reimbursed.
That would be so good, you know, because I know it looks like Emily and I just have money raining down. Hey, turn off the money machine, but we don't. So yeah.
Well, I'm also just making sure that somebody didn't pay for that on their own and not get reimbursed for it. So.
Right, or that there's not some logo designer out there going, those philanthropists, they stole my logo.
Okay.
I'll get you guys the receipt.
Focus, guys. Quit being distracted.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hear from like one person from each breakout room, kind of just what you talked about. I know the prompt was kind of vague, but just kind of talking about topics for potential heat scenarios. And then we will debrief the meeting.
I'll go. Okay, so my breakout room, we just talked about some different topics we could do. I typed out a little tiny box in the corner of Miro just to keep track of it, but here's some things we came up with. We could do mental health, like ways to treat it. And another one that applies a little bit closer to the videos is what role does the education system play in mental health? And then
we also did under food deserts, we could have a prompt like, how do we address food deserts, and also discuss like the stereotypes of people living in food deserts and like those areas like North Tulsa. And then under the prison system, we came up with like disproportionate numbers of different ethnic minorities or ethnic groups in prison, and also maybe like the ethics of prison, like of prison practices and incarceration. So we just kind of spitballed some ideas under those video topics, you know what I mean?
Thank you, Peyton. What breakout room were you from?
Three.
Okay, so let's just go increasing order. Someone for breakout room 4 now.
We just kind of talked about the ideas that the or the videos that this video people had and the topics that we had so far, and we I guess looked at it a different way and just kind of thought those aren't the most controversial topics. So it'd probably be better to like look at different areas, or we thought they could be used for like the low heat discussion, since there's a lot to talk about for all of them, but there's not really, it's not that controversial, so that could be used for. And then we kind of thought over like just went over again what we thought the, not schedule, but like where the videos would go between what parts of the simulation.
Thank you for sharing. Room 1.
Sorry, I was typing. Okay, so we went through all the video topics that they have and all the ones that they are trying to have, and we assigned them into certain heats along with certain discussion topics that correlate with them. So for example, we have in the medium heat, we have drug abuse, education, prison reform, and I also added hate speech / imminent danger. And for low heat, we have low voter turnout and environmental discourses. And for high heat, welfare. Welfare is the name of the game for the high heat, because I thought it would be so, because it's so divisive among political parties. And this would include homelessness, food deserts, perhaps even COVID stimulus checks. And then the civil discourse video will happen in the beginning, and there's not really a heat it'll go with, but we went through that, and I got to update some of the video committee about the simulations process, and it went really well.
Thanks, Lane. Now, breaker room 2 is the only one left.
So our group was me, Edie, Derek, Ava, and Nina, and we talked about kind of the logistics of like how we're going to fit together the two committees. So the video committee had a couple questions about like how this simulation is going to be formatted and like exactly where our videos will be like inserted chronologically throughout that process. And so we kind of clarified that. We also talked about how the video committee needs to start thinking about what kind of topics we're going to use for high heat, because things like education may not be very like applicable to that type of conversation that they're looking for. So we definitely want the video committee to think about like, if we are going to find new interviewees, to start thinking about that, and also to think about what type of questions we can put in our interviews that can maybe like give us some inroads into high heat type topics.
Thank you everyone for sharing. So now we're going to do some plus deltas about today's meeting. So I'm going to leave it open to you guys. What went well, what moved us towards progress, and what hindered progress, just as a reminder.
I think, especially for the simulation committee, that meeting with Kristen and Melody was absolutely like the best thing we could have done today. I really appreciated it. Emily like described it perfectly, saying it was clarifying. No, I literally thought that was the best thing we did all day, and it was so engaging and so professional, and yeah, big plus of the day was that meeting with Kristen.
And you all were, Adam and I were just talking about, like, you all did an outstanding job running that meeting. Edie, everybody in that group, you guys did an awesome job facilitating that. So we were just commenting that, like, we just sat back and you guys conducted a professional dialogue with, professionals at the university level, international philanthropists,
That center deals with MDs and all sorts of people. Yeah, I mean, honestly, go on, Emily. I didn't mean to step on you.
Oh, no, I mean, that's really it. I also love what you guys just did. So that's another plus, is like the collaboration to me is like, it seems like you all have moved a little bit further down the road in clarifying how the videos can really enhance the simulation experience. And I'm just wondering, like, do you all sense that too? Especially like you all in the video group, like feel like, okay, like what we're building really has a place here and is bringing value to the simulation. Yeah, anyway, I'm excited.
Some people said it in the chat, but after hearing Julian's plus, Delta is definitely that I don't think the video committee really knows what happened with Kristen.
But then I would add a plus that we videoed it as a plus. If you guys want to watch it, that is. A watch party. Oh my God, that sounds like so much fun.
I was gonna say like a personal plus was being able to sit in with the simulation committee, because like, yes, I knew what was going on, but like they were all so nice when I asked questions about like what's going on, and like I gave my input, and they were all just like super inviting, and like I have a really good grasp of everything that's going on right now. So yeah.
Carly said she liked the activities at the beginning. I liked them too. I didn't even realize that they were both kind of like surrounded by like around like happiness and like what's important to you. But I think it set a good tone for the meeting. That was an accident, but I'm glad it happened. Any other plus or deltas?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. I liked the breakout rooms we just did, because we're at a place where like right now, if we're not with the whole cohort, we're just with our committees. So it was really cool to get to talk to like Derek and Edie just one-on-one, and also Nina, just because they're not in my committee. So it was just cool to like be able to like share information with each other, but also, I don't know, just get to catch up a little bit. It was cool.
Anybody else? Okay, well, just for the sake of keeping each other accountable, gonna ask the who does what by when. I know we have a meeting on Sunday, so maybe, it's what do you hope, like what are you gonna work on Sunday? Or just, yeah, next items on to-do lists. So like 1 to 2 people from each committee. We'll make it simple.
The video committee has some clarifying questions that we'd like to ask Wes about the makeup or like the outline of one of our videos. So we're hoping to, I think, ask him about that on Sunday and kind of work out the details of that, and then just continuing to get ready for the recordings.
I guess a brief walkthrough of what it might look like, prepare a little kind of like really know what it's going to be like, or like we want to figure out how we want like to ask the questions and like what we want the, I don't know, I guess the tone of the video to be, if that makes sense. So we're going to go through that on Sunday too.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Simulation can just kind of think about the things that Kristen gave us about like additions or edits to the simulations that we described to her and how to fix that.
I was just gonna say for the little like finishers group thing, we're wanting to have the outline of our first outline done by this Sunday. So that'll be done pretty soon.
Also, just a point for the simulation group, from the breakout rooms, we were talking about the interview that's going to happen hopefully a week from today. Ava asked just to keep in mind, like from the simulation group, if there's any specific questions that we want them to ask Eric about like the criminal justice system, that might help for a good scenario topic. So just, you know, think about that. We'll discuss more on Sunday. Any last thoughts or comments or concerns or announcements? No? Okay, well, as always, it's always awesome seeing you guys and great work today, seriously. I'm happy. I'm super excited about our project. You all are working super hard. So I'll see you all on Sunday at 3.
Bye, guys. Have a good weekend.